everybody, Poop Witch X here, and I am accompanied today, and you probably, if you listen to our stream, hear her voice all the time. This is the one, the only, the talented, creative, amazing LadySnash. Snash, how are you?
Doing great. How are you?
I am good, and I want to ask you before we start, because I'm trying to do this as a tradition, what are your pronouns?
My pronouns are she and her.
Okay, so first of all, I'm so excited to talk to you because you've been in the community a long time and we've never been able to do like a one-on-one chat, and I'm so pooping excited. I have so many questions.
I am ready for any questions. It's been, I think, just over a year that I got kind of drug over on a raid and I just stuck to you.
I love
like
you.
Glue to poo.
Yes, that's the best. I love you. Well, today we're focusing on like trade jobs, but I wanted to ask you, first of all, because you just started a new job, right?
Yes.
Okay,
About
so
a month ago.
what is your new job? I know that you have new hours and new schedules, so we're able to see your beautiful face more, but like what you doing now?
So right now, I dispatch and I'm a supervisor of the local transit authority. And so I just started learning that. And I have to keep track of all the buses, where they are, if there's any problems, and schedule rides. So it's a big change from what I was previously doing, which was 911 dispatching. But it gives me more time to be with my family and less stress. And it's something that I can grow old with, whereas 911 at one point it was going to be too much and I was going to need to find something, and this is something that I can retire at.
Well, first of all, I love that I appreciate that you said it's something I could grow old with, because I feel like a lot of people start a job and they switch it to another job, and like some jobs just they don't work for you either physically, mentally, emotionally, and they feel that they have to stay in it. But you made this switch for yourself, and do you feel like it's had a positive outcome for you?
A huge positive outcome for me. I miss being a 911 dispatcher with 100% of my soul. It's just something that made me feel good and I really, really enjoyed doing. But on the other hand, having all this extra time and energy, one, it's something new to me because I dispatched for 13 years for 911. And so I'm like, what is this feeling? What am I doing tonight? And what were
your hours? Your hours were like graveyard
We rotated
hours.
schedules. So you could work either a day shift, a kind of a swing shift, which is a midday, or overnights. So you work like a graveyard shift, which does make it really tough.
Right.
But
oh, yeah. Hell yeah.
Somebody has to be there.
Right, of course. And honestly, for 13 years doing a job that is that high stress, and I honestly commend you. I know I've told you a million times, but I genuinely believe that you are the unsung heroes of the emergency response system. When you call 911, you need help. And this is who you'd get. Snash is who you'd get on the phone, talking you through whatever scenario you're in while she dispatches the people who need to get there to the scene. Like, you are the person, you're the first, in a lot of situations, you're the first line of defense for people. Can I ask you questions about like calls you've had and stuff?
Yeah, I can talk about some of them. But to add to what you just said, 911 dispatchers, we do like to refer to ourselves as the first responder.
Yes.
Because we are the first person that you're going to talk to that's going to respond to your need for help.
Yes. And it's like when I was an EMT, you guys were you explained what was going on calmly. You gave us as much detail as you can like ascertain. A lot of situations are extremely stressful and high energy and dangerous even, and you retain so much information in a crisis situation and give it to the people who need it to when they get to the scene to know what's going on. I mean, it's really incredible what you did. And for 13 years, holy moly.
Well, and that was just 13 years at that center. I did it for a year before I left the military when I had to go through stuff with my illness. And that's where I kind of fell in love with it.
Wait. So you
I did it
this
there
for
and it was a little
13
bit
years
different.
here, and then what did you do? Wait, so you did 13 years at this one place, and then, so what's your timeline? You were in the military. What branch of military were you
I was in the Navy, and then when I was overseas, so I was a Master at Arms in the Navy. We'll start there, which is basically like a police officer.
Okay.
And so I got sick and we couldn't figure out what it was.
Oh,
And well,
man.
we did eventually. But while I was sick and we were going to all the doctors, they put me in dispatch because I couldn't work the road. And I was like, oh, hey, if I can't be a police officer, this might be the route I go because I'm still getting to help people. And then the more I thought about it, I thought, I don't have to see all the gross stuff if I'm
Yeah.
here. I just
Yeah.
have to hear it. Like, I don't have to see all the EMT stuff or
Right.
the
Yeah.
accidents. And when
Right.
it's rainy, I'm warm inside. And
Right.
then when I moved back home, I just kind of fell into the 911 position here. And it was just all she wrote. It was amazing. And it was highs and lows. And I have a great family of friends that I connected so well with at my 911 center that when I left, I cried. It was so hard because I felt like I was losing part of my family. And I'm going to
Yeah.
get a little choked up myself. But it's also, like you said, it takes a special person. We always say it takes a special kind of crazy to be a 911 dispatcher because you never know what you're going to hear. And
Yeah.
you only hear it. You never see the outcome.
Does that, okay, so like going off of, what you just said, is that significant in some ways that you don't get the outcome? You don't know what happened? It's like you hear these
Sometimes,
snippets of these sometimes horrendous stories and then you just have to go to the next call.
sometimes it works out well because I can make up the ending in my head and feel great about it.
Oh.
Sometimes it's hard because maybe you sit and do CPR for 10 minutes with somebody and then they pick him up in an ambulance.
They pick them up in an ambulance and wait, you got cut off. Oh, did I mute? Oh, wait.
That worked.
Did I get, oh wait, I
what it
got
did.
muted somehow. I'm so sorry.
That's
What
okay.
did, you said,
So sometimes
Yeah.
sometimes if I don't know the outcome, I can make it up in my head. So if I had a terrible accident and I don't know what happened to anybody that was transported, I can think, they all made it. It's cool. I know nothing more than that. And I just move on to the next call. But sometimes, because I worked in a rural area, you might be sitting doing CPR for 10 minutes before the ambulance can get there. And then they pick him up and put him in the ambulance and take him to the hospital, and I'll never know if they made it or not. And sometimes that's hard not knowing in that case.
Right. It can linger with
Because
you.
you spent all that time with that person, and while I never saw their face and I never saw what was going on, I still felt it in my heart, that
Yes.
whole incident. And so it's good and bad.
I honestly think that my heart is like, you said it takes a certain type of crazy. I don't really think that any of you guys are crazy. I think it takes a certain kind of human with the capacity to do what you do, because from my perspective, it would eat me away inside not knowing. Like I would never be able to move on. I would literally think about it constantly. And the fact that you've done it for so many years and you've probably heard such an array and you get these little windows into these moments of people's lives. And honestly, listen, no one calls 911 because they're having a good day.
They never call to say thank you.
Right.
Or, hey, my day is great and I got flowers.
Exactly. I think that that's like a really important thing to remember, is that you're never calling 911 and it's not customer service, you're calling it because you're in a crisis. And I genuinely, I don't know how you did it. I think you are miraculous. It's amazing. So when we talk about some good moments, do you have any calls that resonated with you in a good way that you remember and you're like, oh, that was a nice call. That was a good call. Or I think they're going to be okay.
Well, right before I left my job, I was asked to go accept an award for a life-saving pin, basically. Well, that's what I thought it was going to be, and it was much, much more. And I actually got to meet the caller, who was the wife of the husband, and I made her do CPR because she needed to do CPR. And she just went, okay, I'm going to do this, and it saved his life. He's alive.
Oh my God, I just got
day.
chills. Because you talked her through how to do it, because did she not know?
I told her how to do CPR, because we have my agency, we had a medical book. So when it was like, somebody needs CPR, we need to put pressure on a wound, or maybe they're choking on something, it has instructions that we can instruct somebody and walk them through how to do it, and we just read it as it is. Although funny thing, when I do give CPR instructions, I hum the death march, because that's the perfect from
Star Wars?
Dun 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 dun, because that's the perfect beat for CPR. So I got to meet her and her daughter.
She's
and her
right.
daughter's like, yeah, because of you, my dad gets to meet their first grandchild.
Oh my gosh.
Soon. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to cry. I'm just going to die right now. Like, this is amazing.
That is
and it was
amazing.
so rewarding because I got to see so much more of the picture that we never get to see.
You got to see the end of a story. It's like you kind of get these little glimpses into these little chapters of people's stories, but you never get to see the completion of that chapter in most cases. And that is amazing. And honestly, can I say, do you think that everybody should have like basic training in CPR? Because that was one of the things that we were taught when we were EMTs. Like everyone should know how to do CPR.
And I think that would be amazing. If everybody knew the basics of first aid and CPR, it would be crazy what kind of changes we could make. They do say that if somebody has like a witness cardiac event, the quicker you start CPR, the better the chance they have of making it through that.
Absolutely.
And like, I think it's, and I don't want to be wrong on these numbers, but I know it's like after so many minutes, their chances of living decrease by 10% for each time increment. And I don't remember, I think it's maybe a minute or it could be different time.
I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong too, someone could fact check us, but I'm pretty sure that after 6 minutes without oxygenated blood going to the brain, you will have brain damage.
Right.
So that's what you're doing when you're giving CPR. You're circulating, you're getting the heart pumping again to circulate the blood, to oxygenate the blood through the body. You can't have unoxygenated blood in your body or you're not good. Bad. Very bad. You need it. So, yeah.
Although I will say that a majority of 911 centers, from what I know, and I've talked in 911 groups, most of them do have a protocol of walking people through that kind of thing if needed. So there's so many different, types of
you're fine.
medical like books that they have out there and different protocols. So most dispatchers will walk you through how to do it.
Also, like I was thinking like the Heimlich too. Like most of us know, because that's like an easy one. CPR is exhausting. If you're doing CPR right, you are exhausted. You broke their ribs. You are dripping in sweat. Your arms are shaking. Your legs are shaking. You are exhausted. You need I shouldn't make a joke, but like it's really exhausting.
It is exhausting. It's I listen to people that are getting exhausted and they have nobody else there.
Oh my gosh.
And all you can do is just encourage them to continue. But yeah, we have instructions to walk somebody through the Heimlich maneuver, or if the caller tells you they're choking and then we start hearing them not be able to breathe, we have instructions for self-Heimlich.
How do they convey that they're choking when they call you?
Well, sometimes they can talk. But now we have text. A lot of agencies have text 911. So somebody could text you and be like, help, I need an ambulance, I'm choking. And then you could text back instructions.
Like, the world, man, that is actually amazing. I never even thought about that. Like if you can perform the Heimlich on yourself, you can throw yourself over if you have like a countertop or a back of a chair. You can thrust yourself. It doesn't work as well. Use a chair or something. But I never thought like if they were to call and they didn't have the capacity to speak because your airway is obstructed. That is amazing. So have you ever had to text somebody the instructions for the Heimlich?
Actually, no. We just got text to 911 at my agency. Like I said, we're small, pretty rural. About a year ago, and not a lot of people know about it. But there's bigger agencies that have had text to 911 for quite a while. And it's becoming more widely known and used. Yeah. And so I can see this stuff happening
also, like
soon.
in an emergency, like if someone is kidnapped or, again, guys, some of these things might be triggering. I'm sorry. I don't want to trigger anybody. But like we are talking 911 to a 911 operator who's had 13 years of experience. So
one thing, we just had a big burn ban where I live. Fires are kind of raging all over the States right now. And somebody didn't want to leave their name because their neighbor was burning and didn't want to cause a ruckus, but it was a pretty big fire. So they texted it. Gosh. They sent a text message and that was fine. And that way you convey it, but nobody sees you convey it.
Right. And then you can protect the community, but it doesn't have to be like a whole thing, which I think is actually an amazing resource. So before we get into, because I am curious, and you don't have to answer, but before we do that, have you ever had a funny call, like a funny dispatch that's like something that you're like, that's hilarious, but you're not allowed to say that?
Yeah, it's oh gosh, how do I say this politely?
Don't just say it.
This lady, her husband, I don't remember what caused it. I just remember that she described it that his testicles had swollen so much that they could fit into a half-gallon ice cream container. Like, that's how she described it. And it was so hard not to laugh because who uses that as a choice of measurement?
Like, that choice of measurement, exactly. Why was that her choice of measurement?
Right. Like, that was what was comical to me because I'm like, how is that your...
What were they doing that made her think of that?
Maybe they were eating ice cream.
Wrong type of nuts for topping. But that to me is actually hilarious because like she could have compared it to, I don't know, a different size ball. Like, you know, they're already balls. Like, you know, you could.
Right.
That is actually
like every once
amazing.
In a while, little things like that. And you know, probably being an EMT.
Yeah.
Nurses, EMTs, police officers, dispatchers, you kind of develop that humor that isn't
it's dark.
Always PC or kosher.
Yes.
And so we also kind of tried to lighten the mood sometimes with song. We sang a lot at dispatch, a lot. And when I sang at dispatch, it was normally pretty poorly. So when I actually sang, people got really surprised that I could sing. But like if a house fire started and it wasn't like anybody getting injured and there wasn't any threat to anybody, it was just a small one, we might have sang The Roof is on Fire.
I think, but that's also because you guys have such a high stress job that you kind of have to have that sense of humor to get through it. I mean, obviously not when things are dire,
right?
But, and even when things are dire, people still sometimes find a way to find humor because you sort of a defense mechanism that you build up. You see a lot, and in your case you hear a lot, and you have to be able to laugh about the things when you can. And I think that's like a really healthy way to deal with it, actually. But I think that's amazing that is her way. I'm gonna remember that story from now on too, because it's really, I just feel like, what were they up to that made her?
Like I said, maybe they were having dessert. I don't know.
And he's like, look at these, they could fit in this gallon of ice cream. Like,
right, like
it's just so funny. Oh God.
But it is, we rarely get those moments, and then there's other days where like you're taking a call where it's heartbreaking because somebody woke up and their spouse was no longer with them. And you get them the help over there and you hang up the phone, and then 10 seconds later you're picking up a call of a guy in the middle of the street with a baseball bat, and you have to change gears so quickly. And I think for me, this is where my ADHD comes in so well, because I can flip that switch. And we use 7 computer screens.
Wow.
So I had 4 were my main working system that we did all of our entry into the system and all our dispatching. 1 for the radio, 1 for like office stuff, and then 1 for the phone system because that was all automated. Wow. And so for me, I think my ADHD and be able to like kind of stack tasks in my mind. And I was like, okay, done with this one, done with that one, and I could check mark them there.
And it kept you
to call.
Right. It kept you almost engaged. In a way, because you were...
In a way, yeah. And then, there were days when it was really hard to keep up and do everything that needed to be done. And then there's other days where you're like, could somebody just do something, please?
Right. I can't even imagine, 7 monitors, though, because I like Karma said, I have 3, and I get lost with where things are. That takes an enormous amount of mental fortitude to be able to keep track of all of those monitors, all of what's going on in each monitor, and then also handling the calls as they come in. So, do you have a call or calls that stuck with you in a negative way?
Yeah, I have quite a few. This one I'm going to say trigger warning on, because this one might be hard for people. I walked somebody through doing infant CPR.
Oh, I knew it was an infant. Yeah, those are the hardest calls.
And they were in a very, very rural area with a volunteer department, and so we had to get some help out there. And we did. We finally, but he was doing CPR the whole time, and it's hard to tell because it's hard to tell with an infant.
Right.
And about a week later, the officer called, and I might get teary-eyed on this too. my detective called because of the type of case, and he said, I just want you to know that you doing CPR on that baby saved their life. They may have some brain damage from what happened,
Right.
but you're the reason that they're alive today. And that one just really, I think that's one that I didn't want to know the outcome of, because I made up my mind on what it was. And in my mind, she lived, but
In
I didn't
reality,
need
she
to
lived
know
too
the
because
rest of it.
Right.
That one stuck with me. I have, I took a call when one of my family members passed away.
Wait, did you say one of yours?
Yeah.
Oh, Snash.
He was my old neighbor. He was my papa. And I answered the call, and then I put him on hold, and my friend coworker picked it up so I could dispatch the call. And it didn't click the address, even though I knew it by heart.
Right.
And as soon as she said the caller's name, I went, oh my gosh, I know who that is. That's my papa. And so, like, those ones do. But then, like, other ones, like my grandma used to call a lot, and she forgot to put her in her hearing aids. And I would yell at her to put in her hearing aids because she needed to hear what I was saying. So there's different spectrums there. But
I never even thought of, like, having a personal person in your life call and you're the one on the receiving end. That's like, I can't even imagine. So, like, one of the things is, like, my dad's a doctor, and he always says that, like, when it came to strangers or other people, he could stay concentrated and calm and he can work through it. But if it was anyone of me or my sister or my mom, it was like, he could not be a doctor anymore. It was just too personal. It was, he like, literally, he just can't. Like, he'll do it, but he's like, can't, you know? Do you feel the same way? Like, when you receive calls that are, you know, personal to you, it's like, you're like, I can't do this?
Not that I can't do it. It's harder for me because I know what to picture is happening. Right. I know what face to see. Whereas when it's a stranger, I can make them look like whatever I need to in my mind and then push it away when I'm done. But if I know the person, I can see their face, and that's hard.
I feel like you have sort of, like, I don't think people realize, or I mean, I hope that they do, but you've opened up this book and, like, shined a light on a really not really talked about part of the emergency response system that we have in place for society. Like, the fact that you have to go from emotional, like, I mean, Anna said emotional whiplash, and in some ways it sort of is. You have to go from one call to the next call, and it, like you said, it could be from something, you know, totally benign, and it's like, oh, I need somebody to come help me because of, you know, my car is dead or whatever. I don't know if you get a call like that or not, but, like, and then all the way to, like, I have to perform CPR on my own child. And I think that that's how do you do that? Like, how do you switch? How do you is that a muscle that you have to work out over the years to be able to switch from your one mentality to the next? Or is it just something that you kind of have, you know, gets ingrained in you? Like, you have to do it.
Almost a talent.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
It's one of those things that we like to tell new dispatchers when they're doing the job. And if there's any new dispatchers listening, just know this. If at any point you realize you can't take that and you can't do the job, saying you can't do the job, that's not a failure in life. This is not a job that just anybody can do. Right. I mean, there's jobs that I couldn't go be an EMT. EMTs out there, I praise them for the stuff that they see. Yeah. But I couldn't do that. Right. I don't want to see the gross. But I can sit and listen to it.
I don't want to see the gross.
I can sit and listen to it, but it takes so much more strength to say, this is not the job for me. I can't emotionally let go of calls or move from call to call, and that's just not going to work for me. And I think that takes a very strong individual to recognize that as well. And I never fault anybody that comes into the 911 career and then decides it's not for them, because it's not for everybody. Yeah. I know you said we're not crazy, but that's why I think we say that it takes a special kind of crazy, because you have to be a special kind of person to really put yourself in that chair and take control of a situation, but really have no control of the situation.
That's the other thing that I think, like, you know, for me, I would never be able to do what you do. And I was an EMT, and although I, you know, did not enjoy a lot of aspects of it, I would still rather be an EMT, because I need to be able to, like, do something and be there, and like I need to know the end of it. And EMTs don't always get the end result either. You know, we're still we're like the second line in the, you know, sometimes you sometimes know the resolution, sometimes you don't, and sometimes you can follow up. But like I think that like your job almost seems harder because you're left again, you're like, you are their first touchstone. You then have to delegate to everyone else who needs to get on the scene. And then the door closes and you just have to move on to the next thing. And I don't know how you're able to do that. I think it does take an amazing human being. I don't know. That's incredible. Like,
again, I think that's where my ADHD comes in, because I forget a lot of calls. Like somebody will ask me like 20 minutes later, hey, that call over on ABC Lane, what was the person calling about? And I'm like, I took a call on ABC Lane 10 minutes ago. Like, yeah, you totally did. I'm like, cool. Let me look it up. Let me jog my memory. So I think that's part of it too, is you just, and there are calls that will live with me forever. There's
because you can
involvements
hear things
with officers that will live with me forever.
What do you mean by that?
Like, well, this is another one that stuck with me. When I was brand new, I was a year on the job. I had an officer get injured and really badly, and his dog got injured as well.
No.
And I had to sit there at that moment and make the decision. The dog was fine afterwards. He just broke a rib. He's good. He was good after.
Was the police person okay?
He was a police dog, yeah. But I had to sit and make
the police officer okay?
Yeah, he's good too. I still harass him all the time. He actually called me from vacation to tell me he was sad I was leaving when I left.
Oh.
So, but
he no doubt remembers the impact you made too.
And so, but that was like a year and a half into my new career.
Right.
And that was my turning point of deciding, can I do this job or not? Because that's something that's going to happen possibly. And I had to really be okay with that and my ability to do that. And I think that was where I kind of built the cornerstone of my job my career at that time, was on that call, because I decided this is what I want to do at this time, and this is where I need to be. And when it was time for me to leave, I knew it was my time to hand the reins over to somebody else. Because,
oh my God, this is so like beautiful. It really is. I'm getting like emotional. It's so beautiful. And wow, you're so in tune with yourself. And that's so rare. Do you know how like rare and amazing that is? Wow.
I will tell you, I've had a lot of help from the Coven. The whole Erica legacy and all that, really kind of talking with people in the Coven and putting myself out there put a lot of stuff into perspective for me.
Yeah.
And so thinking of myself in different ways and looking at myself on the things I can change or what needs to change to make me who I want to be was something that I helped realize through the Erica Legacy Project charity and the setup that you did with the Coven.
Wow. Stop!
Bringing together the mental health openness.
Oh my God.
And it just kind of pushed me in the direction that I knew I needed to go. I just didn't have the footsteps to do it at the time. And like I said, I miss being in 911. I miss going out and talking to people about 911 and reminding them, you know, we need your location. You got to know your phone number. Please answer our questions. I miss being a part of that family, but I'm also still part of that family, just not the stress of it anymore.
Right. And you'll always have the connections with your coworkers and the people, but you're not dealing with the emotional toll of the job anymore.
And thankfully, we were all really good about being a sounding board for each other because we understood. But that's also the hard part. When those are your close friends, and that's all you get to talk about because that's what you need to vent, it makes it really hard as well. But we were all pretty good about checking in with each other. And I had a great supervisor who I took a really hard call, and he recognized I was just going to push through. And I'm like, I'm just going to go back to work and just do this. He's like, I think you need to go take a break. I'm like, no, I'm good. He's like, no, go take a break. Give yourself like 30 minutes. And I came back. I'm like, you were right. I needed that break. Thank you for recognizing that. And seeing that. So we were pretty good about keeping an eye on each other and stuff like that too. But it really, I
Do
think
you
for
think that there
me,
should be more resources, like mental health resources for people in your position as your former position as a 911 operator? Like, do you think that having, scheduled therapy sessions once a month through the
I think that would be great, but it's not as pushed with 911 dispatchers as
right?
it is with police officers, firefighters, EMTs.
But like,
Because
why?
again, um, if you look at us from a national level, their classification is a secretary. We're
What?
not, yeah, 911
That's
dispatchers are not
ridiculous.
included in that emergency personnel list. They're just secretaries. And so they don't get some of the benefits that law enforcement and fire departments do, where they only have to work so many years and they can retire with a good benefit. We have to
Pensions,
work
right?
until retirement age, and
Wow,
it would
that's
be
like
hard for me to be
horrible.
65 and dispatching.
Right, right. But that's also like horrible that you guys aren't treated with the same tools or resources. And I know that police officers, at least in New York, because I know a lot of police officers who work in NYPD, and they don't even monopolize on the therapy that is offered to them and the counseling that's offered to them, because unfortunately it still seems to be very stigmatized for some police officers to go seek help, and they have to be forced to go talk when things happen. When they
Right.
discharge their gun, they have to go talk, but they don't want to, and they usually just like get it over with or whatever. But I think that having like, but that's just like a whole other thing. But like for you guys hear things and have to talk to people in their sometimes darkest, most traumatizing moments. And then, like we said, you immediately go to the next call. You guys are not secretaries. I mean,
Right.
you just not. And I
Thankfully,
think,
there's some people in Congress that are pushing to change that classification, and some states
yes,
have changed it. I actually feel like, again, I could be wrong. I think New York is one state that's either pushing to
I
change the
hope so.
classification at the state level, or they've already done it. But
That's
there's
great.
several states that have done it. And there's a congresswoman from California who used to be a dispatcher for 911 who's really pushing for it at the national level. But I know from my center, our new deputy director used to be a 911 dispatcher with us, came from that same group. And so she is really good at checking in on people
Yeah.
and
Because she knows what you guys are
kind of
doing and going
kind of
through.
pushing people if they need that help to maybe get the assistance needed. But it would be nice if we got the same kind of PTSD recognition that officers do, because, well, I never saw what happened.
Right.
I hear it, and your mind, when you hear something, automatically creates that
The
picture.
story. Oh, for sure. And
And so
sometimes the
it's
story can even be worse than the reality, because people can be hysterical or screaming or crying because they're terrified, which inflates their emotional response. But in reality, they're like actually okay. I mean, I went to a
right.
call when I was an EMT, and this guy cut his hand cooking, and he cut his hand really bad. And we heard from the 911 operator that he was like, he made it sound like he cut through to his whole hand to the bone. There was blood everywhere. He was screaming. He was crying. I mean, he was hysterical. We got there, and he didn't even need stitches. So I mean, it was it was like we were like, oh, we got it. We ran in like thinking like, oh my gosh, this
Oh my
is gonna be,
goodness.
and then he just had a really bad response to it. So sometimes the picture they paint for you is even worse than when we actually arrived, and all he really needed was to be bandaged and to be, he needed some medicine like to make sure he doesn't get an infection, but that was like it. So I think that sometimes the picture that gets painted for you guys is even worse than the reality. So I definitely think, and like I'm not, again, I just had this because we are in September, like the 911 dispatchers that were part of 9/11, like things like that are so traumatizing. The last calls that people made were to 911, and like I feel like you guys should absolutely have the resources for PTSD counseling that anybody else in the emergency services has the option to go for. And do you feel like, now that you've taken a step away and you've been doing another job, do you look back and think that, things could have been different if that was an option for you?
I think things definitely could have been different on a lot of calls.
Yeah.
Speaking of like the last call, there were a few calls where I was the last voice anybody ever heard. And when you get off that call, it's like, it's almost sobering. Like, you're just like, oh my goodness, I hope that I gave them comfort. And then you worry about that for a while. And
Right.
like I said, there's calls that will always stick with me. And eventually they'll get better and they'll get easier and there'll be less of that barking noise in the back of my head.
Right.
But knowing that I have people that I can reach out to, and I know there's services locally that I can find if I did, or, you know, I've also been given people to contact through connections through the Coven. And so I know that I can do that. And I think it's very healthy to go out and deal with your mental health however you need to. If you need to talk to a therapist, if you need to meditate, you need to do yoga.
All the things, everything. All the things are good, yeah.
It's just one of those things you just don't think about sometimes in your daily life or the job that you do. But there's so many jobs out there where you see things that we shouldn't be seeing.
Yeah.
And you just need to talk that out or work that out mentally with yourself and feel okay with it. And I think we need to make it more okay, especially in the emergency services field, that it's okay. It's not giving up to go talk to a doctor or to go ask for help.
Right.
And I think too many people, like you said, have that stigma.
Right. And I think that one of the things is that, like you said, some things people really shouldn't have to see. And it's not that, like, sometimes you have to see it. It's your job. Like, you're an EMT, you're a firefighter, you're a police officer, you hear the call, you're 911. But things, like, get etched in there. And I do feel like if you don't talk about it and talk it out, your brain will, like, hold it like a rock. Like, it will just create this, like, heavy weight that you can sometimes see. And I know that, Snash, you probably see it more than me. You see those people who they walk around, they seem heavy, like they're carrying stuff, and their energy, their spirit is heavy because they're like, I mean, even like you said, you know, you're carrying those calls where those people, you were the last person that they heard. By the way, there's no way you weren't a comfort to them because your voice is just so comforting. And honestly, I must say that, like, you know, I am one of those people who, like, I'll listen to 911 calls because, like, I'm not normal, and, like, I'll listen on YouTube to, like, 911 calls and, like, in documentaries and stuff. And I always feel like with 911 calls, you want to hear a very soothing, calm voice, and you have that. Is that something you've always had, or is that something that you've developed as you've been on so many calls?
I mean, I think it's my voice level where it is. Something I've always had. I've had to learn over the years to slow it down.
Yeah.
Because you know how you say you talk fast.
Yeah.
I talk really fast. Like, my new job, I'll get talking about something that I'm trying to explain, and my mouth is going quicker than my mind, and words are getting left out. And some of the people that are older than me look at me with that sideways head tilt, and they said, you know, let me try that one more time a little bit slower. And I apologize for that because I'll slow it down if you need me to say that again. But I think my voice has always been like this, although I do have a customer service voice.
You do.
She's so, I don't like her.
No, I think that in your previous field, having that, like, sort of soothing, like, very even toned voice is so imperative. Because also, when you first started, did you feel like anxious to go to work or nervous to go to work, or, like, did you ever raise your voice, or, like, did you ever, because, like, I feel like as you became a veteran and you had probably heard everything, every kind of call imaginable, I feel like you got that muscle was worked out a lot. But when you first started, like, what was that like when you first started? Were you nervous? Like, I'd be so nervous. When I was an EMT, every day I put on my uniform, I couldn't eat. I was so nervous every single day for a year. Do you feel the same way? Was that sort of the same thing?
I'll answer both your questions. One,
okay.
There were times when something would come in, no matter how long I had been there, and it was something new, and I would be like, I've never heard that one before in my 12 years or 13 years of being here.
Right.
Let me think about this on how to fix it. As far as the nerves, I think I was more nervous because I wasn't sure how to apply what I had been taught in the academy. I had an 8-week academy where we went over and listened to calls, we went over call types, we went over all kinds of things. And my first couple days, my trainer, who thank her soul. She was great. She really worked with me. I'm like, can I type while you talk for like a few calls, and then we switch it vice versa, so I can make sure that I'm learning the questions that I need to ask, because as you get further in the career, you know the questions to ask. And if you need to keep somebody on the phone for whatever reason, whether it's waiting for an ambulance or I need to keep somebody on the phone to wait for an officer so I know where they are, you kind of learn these extra questions that you can ask that really don't maybe not pertain to the call, but just keep them interacting with you so that you know they're okay.
What would be an example of something why you'd have to keep someone on the call?
So I had a child caller who was reporting a family member who had passed away while she was the only one home. So I wanted to keep her on the phone to make sure that she was okay until I got somebody there to be with her. But you kind of start running out of questions, and I don't always relate well to children. And so I'm like, do you have any pets?
Right.
And she's like, oh yeah, I've got 3 cats, blah, 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 whatever. And I'm like, yeah, cats are my favorite. So,
what are their names?
My partner's like, cats are not your favorite. I'm like, she doesn't need to know
that. She doesn't need to know that.
It made her feel better.
Funny. Right.
But then other times it's maybe I have a suspect in a incident on the phone, and I need to keep them on the phone so I can see where they are based on their cell phone. Right. And kind of keep them around.
What did you say? To track their cell phone?
So yeah, we can, not always the best, depends on your phone, but when you dial 911, if you have a newer phone, it's got GPS based in it. And sometimes it does still based on the triangulation of the towers. But my center had what's called phase 2, and that's where we can see your location on the map within a certain meter radius. So say I had a 911 hang-up call, and I had a location based on it, and it had like a 500-foot radius. That phone is somewhere within that 500 feet. What's cool is, and this is the science nerd in me, they're working on phase 3 or next generation, which will now tell people how high up they are. So in big cities where they have skyscrapers and giant apartment buildings, they could say they're within 500 feet of this area. Also, they're on the 10th to the 13th floor. And so if you have a medical call, then you could rush up to the 10th or 13th floor instead of checking 50 floors. And that's based on, this is so nerdy, that is based on vertical datum, which is something that you use with coordinates, and it's a base level that has to do with the sea level and things, and then it gets measured up, and the maps will have that kind of built into it. It's really cool.
That is actually amazing, and I think that this is imperative because, like, I don't know about you guys, but I watch a lot of true crime, and I feel like a lot of people who get like abducted, if they can get that last call out, even if they can't translate or speak or they're bound or whatever, if they can ping you to that level of a degree of like even how high up you are, that could save so
many lives. And it doesn't always work well.
Yeah.
Sometimes it depends on when you first turn on your cell phone, it doesn't always connect to GPS right away. And so we get what's called a non-initialized phone, where we don't have a phone number to call back and we don't always get a location. Or when a kid plays with an old cell phone that doesn't have service, but it can still call 911 because all phones can call 911 as long as they've got power. We don't always get a good location on those because they're normally older phones. But I know my phone, my Pixel phone, if I dial 911 and I can't talk, I can push a button that says, my caller is not able to speak. They're calling from their cell phone. These are their GPS coordinates. I'm showing them at this building, and they said they need an ambulance. I mean, how cool is that technology?
Amazing. That is so also, like, even for people who are disabled and they can't communicate in that way, or a disabled person, like you said, like that little girl, she found somebody who was passed away, a family member who passed away. What if somebody who was disabled or mute or unable to express themselves was in a situation like that? Being able to just hit a button, hit a button, and have the police or whoever you need show up is amazing. Like, that's actually amazing.
That's the nice thing about text to 911 now. But also, we had TTY service or TTD service built right into our phone system. And so we can type and talk with somebody and then transfer that over to a call as well. So we have capabilities for those that are differently abled. I've had calls where it was a video relay where somebody was using sign language to connect with the relay service who would then tell me what was going on. We had a service for somebody that spoke a different language where I had an interpreter that would get on the phone and then I could communicate with them in their native tongue so that they could feel comfortable discussing with me or telling me where they were.
Right. And also like that they could, if they had to know something like as serious as CPR, they would actually understand in their native tongue and not. That is amazing. And see, that's when I say, like, sometimes, technology, there's beautiful things that come from technology, and then there's, like, not obviously beautiful things, but this is a beautiful thing. This is...
Well, it's just amazing to see where it's going. Although I will tell you one thing that really scares me about 911. I'm thankful I'm not there, is they're talking about getting pictures in 911. And I already told you, I don't want to see the gross stuff. So I wouldn't want somebody to send me a picture that says, hey, I have this leg injury. Do you think I need an ambulance? Because I'm going to be grossed out every time.
And you know what? Honestly, the truth is, I don't even think that would really be helpful. Because most people, when they're in like that dire, if let's say you get into a car accident, someone's in a car accident and they have like a compound fracture, which is the kind of fracture where your bone is like protruding out of your leg or arm or whatever. Like they're going to be in so much pain and probably in shock that like, I think even trying to like explain to them, oh, put me on speakerphone, switch to this camera setting or something like that. Like that probably will be very complicated, but that could be helpful in terms of like, maybe if people are having an allergic reaction. Like, do you get like when people are having an allergic reaction kind of calls?
We've taken those. Maybe that'd be helpful. In our medical protocol book, it does talk us through that. But it could be, but I don't want to see it. Because I'm afraid of what people are going to send.
That's true. Also, you would probably, think of Testicle Lady and the ice cream.
Right.
What picture would that picture would have scarred you for life.
Or like if somebody's like, oh, I see a fight, and they just send you a picture of the fight, and then that's all they say.
Right.
And then I don't know. There's no landmarks.
Right. There's no landmarks, or they send a picture and it's like blurry or dark, and that's all they send you, and you have to go off of nothing. So that could be interesting, but also I think the pinging that you brought up to like that specification is amazing. I think that's
it really is, and we used to have trouble with it in our rural area because when it was all triangulation, we had one cell company whose towers were all in a straight line. And so I couldn't get a good triangulation. Right. But now with the GPS on phones, we do get normally pretty close. Unless it's like a heavily treed area or something like that. But I could imagine like in bigger open cities, maybe not like Portland, Seattle, stuff like that, where they've got a lot of building cover. Right. But like something that's a little bit more open, lower to the ground, they'd get a lot better locations on things. And the mapping services are much better. Mine, I could see like where a building was, and I'd be like, okay, I've got a common place here. Are you near the Safeway, or are you near Albertsons? And if they say yes, then I know, okay, I can put you right here and get help to that area. But it's not always that easy.
But you know what, though? I think, I just want to say, like, you switching career paths because you recognize, like, this was, the right time for you to make a change. I just want to circle back to that because I don't think we took enough appreciation for the fact that, like, you had this moment happen between you and a police officer that sort of solidified, okay, I'm going to be in this for a while. And in a lot of ways, you were in it for the long haul. 13 years, and it is a very long time to be at the same job. It just, people don't do that, like, anymore. Most people switch jobs every, like, 2 years, 3 years, or something like that. And the fact that you were at the same place and a very high pressure, high responsibility place for 13 years is astounding. But I also think it's amazing that you recognize, you're like, okay, I've done what I want and it's time to move on and give, like you said, I think it was so beautiful, like give the reins to somebody else who maybe they'll enjoy it, maybe they won't. It's like, it's a very decisive job. It's not for everybody, like you said.
Right.
But you started this new job. So do you feel like your mental health has, been better, or do you feel like it's just different? Okay.
In a lot of ways, in like a lot of weird ways.
Right.
My mom and I have joked about this, where in the old job, if she's like, hey, we're doing a campfire after you get off work, come on over. If they weren't super close, I'd be like, maybe another time.
Yeah.
Whereas 2-3 weeks ago, she's like, hey, we're camping. It's a 2.5 hour drive. Do you want to come out after work? And I went, Yeah,
Yes.
you know what? I'll do it. And I got off work, packed all my stuff in my car, and I drove 2 hours. And she's like, oh, well, you actually came. And I'm like, I know. And then I got up the next morning, and she's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I don't know. Let's go do whatever. And she's like,
anything you
you're
want.
never like this camping. I'm like,
Right.
I know. I got this energy. I don't know where it's coming from. But I hadn't realized how emotionally and physically exhausted I was. I knew physically, but like the emotional exhaustion, which I've learned a lot about. I hate to keep bringing it up, but I learned a lot about with the tools that we have available
Yes.
with the Erica Legacy Foundation.
You can bring it up as much as you want. I'm so proud and so honored that
about that exhaustion.
Yeah.
That you just don't think about. That's what's actually weighing you down. Is you're just emotionally
exhausted,
tired.
heavy.
Like
yes,
you don't.
And it can make you physically tired. Like your emotions can be so heavy, and you're so emotionally exhausted that you could become physically drained.
Yeah.
Like you literally can't even walk around. You're so tired.
And I would come home from work, and I would just like you disassociate after stream.
Yes.
I did it a little differently. I sat on the couch and watched a TV show that I've watched a
naked on the
billion times.
Everyone dissociates differently, but yeah. So you'd have to take
turn
the
on
time
The Office for the 50th time, or Parks and Rec, or a movie that I watched a million times and I can quote because I didn't want to have to focus
or think.
Or I'd come home and sit in my car in the silence for like 30 minutes.
Oh boy.
And then come inside and do the same thing again because I just didn't have the emotional energy to get up and do things that I needed to do for me. And I didn't realize how much I'd put myself on the back burner to continue to do a job that I loved with my whole heart.
Right.
And this new job, while it's not as rewarding in a lot of ways, it is because I do get to help people just in a different way.
Absolutely.
But emotionally speaking, I feel like a huge weight has been lifted off of me. Absolutely. And I have energy to do things. I was able to do this and not have to worry about, am I going to work extra overtime on this night and have to miss out on this? And the same with Barty Bunch stuff. I love doing that.
Right.
But in the old job, it was such a worry of, what if I get called in my day off and now I have to miss this and I'm letting these guys down? And I know you guys wouldn't be bothered by it.
No,
but
of course not.
I just love doing it because it's such a silly, fun release.
Yes.
That it's something that I knew I needed.
Yeah.
And especially like to see like how hard Mr. Rickman works on those things.
He does.
And then you and Anna Jean and Drifter and like just the fun that we have doing that together. I mean, as soon as we finished the 90s one, I went and Googled, is Tony Danza in any Disney movies, and made sure that happened. Because I wanted that to continue.
Mr. Rickman Googled it. Of course he did.
Oh, no, I Googled it and said, by the way, Tony Danza is in this movie, and it's a Disney movie.
Oh, my God. I love it. No, but that's because you reclaimed, like, your time. Time is precious. And, like, even though you loved being a 911 dispatcher and you were amazing at it, and it will always be a huge part of who you are, you're reclaiming like a sense of self with reclaiming time. Like energy is time, and it seems very precious. And now you have an abundance of it, which means you get to do things that also bring you more joy, and you just keep adding to that well of joy. And it doesn't mean that you didn't love your previous job. It just means that it's time for you to like love yourself more than that. And I'm so proud of you.
And looking to retirement, I know I still have quite a bit. I mean, not like forever.
I don't know what you're talking about, lady. Like you're 30, right? No, wait.
No, I'm 39.
I know. My brain just does not believe that you're 39. I mean, not that 39 is even remotely old, but it just feels like you're the same age as me. Like I've convinced myself you're 30.
Like I'll take it. One of my new coworkers thought I was 29. I went, okay, well, I guess that's what I'm going to be.
Yes.
But I had to look at retirement. Right. And that's something also that I don't think a lot of people my age and younger look at and think about, because it's not something that you really talk about. And again, I think we should. Right. And so when I knew that I was going to be looking for another job. My dad actually talked me into applying for this job. And I did a lot of research on it before I applied because I wanted to make sure that I was in the same retirement system and it was going to work for me, that I didn't have to work till I'm 80 to be able to live a comfortable life, that I can retire at retirement age. Right. And so, and I even talked with my boss, the other day, and she's like, yeah, I'm going to retire in 11 years. I said, okay, so in 11 years, I'll be taking your job. Is that what we're saying? And she was, I hope
Good
so.
Good for you. I hope so. Yeah.
But I had to look at something that in 10 years, did I want to look for a job in 10 years when I could only give maybe 7 to 10 years to a company? Or did I want to look for a job now where I could give a new company 17 to 20 years and be something that I could build and put underneath my belt that's also going to help me with that retirement I need?
And so you have a future in the company. Like there you can progress. Yeah, she does look like she's in her 20s, by the way. Little Housewife said 39. I thought you were for sure in your 20s. I know, she's got good genes, guys. But you know what? It's amazing too, because a lot of people, and I know you know the face that I'm talking about, but a lot of people who have very high stress jobs in the the first responder industry usually get like lots of wrinkles and stuff because the stress and the strain wears on their face sometimes, but not. Snash is a witch. We all know the truth. She splashes seawater on her face, and she just
maybe it's just the rain. It's the rain that does it.
Beautiful rain. But I think that it's amazing, and I think that it's something for everybody to think about. That like sometimes people feel like you have to stay at the same place forever, and that's all you can go. And even if you can't progress in that career field or go anywhere, you're like, oh well, I'm here. I'm going to stay here. But it's always okay to pivot and to try something new, especially if you're going to have the emotional, physical, mental benefits that like Snash is saying that she feels, which is amazing. And you should be so proud of yourself for taking this leap. And I know it was a big leap for you. I know
it was huge. It was like stepping off a cliff.
Right.
And thankfully, it wasn't that far of a drop for me. I was really, really, really nervous about leaving something that I knew was always going to be there for something completely new that I had to train myself for. And I have to remind myself, I'm still a very intelligent person. I pick up things like a sponge. I love, love, love to learn.
Right.
Which is why I kind of surprised myself that I didn't go to college or finish it, because I do have that thirst for knowledge, but I also like the hands-on knowledge. I like to learn by doing things. Like at my new job, they let me walk underneath the bus and point it out to the mechanics. I'm like, I want to take this apart. And like, you have to put it back together. I'm like, I'd try real hard, but I just want to unscrew everything and take it apart and see what it looks like inside.
That's amazing.
That's been really nice. Is they've worked with me a lot with my oddities and how I need to learn this new job, and I need to learn the skills that I need to be able to do for this job. And they've been so helpful, and like I still get to put things together with my job. I actually posted it in the Discord in the your new thread on mental health.
Yay! About the happy things. Highs. Yes.
Yeah, and so we had a medical incident at work the other night, and I just happened to be staying after chatting with my boss. And as we were out in the parking lot, somebody comes by and says, so-and-so's having a big medical incident. And I stopped for a second as he ran off, and I'm like, do I need to go help? And I'm like, I think I gotta go help, because I don't know if anybody else knows CPR. And if they need CPR, I can do this. So I took off running after him and stayed there probably like an hour after I was supposed to be out of work, and made sure that everything was okay, made sure the ambulance came and it was all good. And I was ready. I was ready to jump in and help out with this. And I thought, you know what? And this is so cheesy, but it's that line where they say, you always look for the helpers, because they're always running into the event instead of walking away from it.
Yeah.
And
I feel that.
I'm not helping people in the same way I was, to be able to know that I still have that desire to rush towards the help.
Right.
Was really great, and it made my heart happy.
Yeah, but I also think that, like, if I can just be honest, I feel like you're hanging on to this feeling or notion that, like, you're not helping people in the same capacity that you were, but you are. You're just utilizing your gifts that you have, because you have so many. You're just utilizing them in a different way. At the same time, you're healing yourself. And, like, you don't have to hold on to that feeling, like, unless you want to. It's your choice. But like, I just hear it in your voice, like you say it, you keep repeating, like, I'm not helping them in the same way. And no, you're not, but you're still helping them equally. And I know that's like doesn't make sense maybe, but from my perspective, I know from the Coven's perspective, like, you are. You still are. You're still a hero in every sense of the word, and you should be immensely proud of yourself. I'm so proud of you. And like, you'll always be there, like you said, there's always going to be the people that run in, and it's a wonderful thing that you're one of those people, and I'm honored to be your friend, and I think you're amazing, and I think you should be really proud of yourself, and I'm proud of you. I'm so proud of you.
And I do think once I get settled, I will be less missing what I did before in the helping. Right. It's just still kind of holding on to that cliff a little bit, but
that's okay.
Will be smooth. I'll get it figured out.
And that could take as long as it needs, because it's only been a month, right?
Yeah, it's been a month since I left my last job. It's super fresh.
I mean, you're still like sort of toes in there. Like, you're still, you're like in both, your mindset is in both places at once, which is like totally normal. It takes a really long time to adjust from one thing to the next. But like, don't be afraid to know from like the bottom of my heart that like you're just as much as a hero as before. And like, I just hope that rings in the back of your head anytime you're thinking like, oh, I'm not. You're absolutely helping. But I think more so is that you're sort of helping yourself now. Like, you gave literally, like, how many years total for 911 operating? Jesus, camera just blew out.
Like I said, it was 19. I don't know where 19 just came from. 13 years at 911 at my center I just left. And then I did it for almost a year in the Navy, so 14 years.
14 years is a long time.
Yeah, and it's just funny to think, like, that's a big chunk of life. Like, that's longer than I was in school.
Yeah. No, I mean,
it's
like,
weird it's weird to think of things in that chunks.
Yes. And then I think of it like, it's true. Like, I feel like 14 years is an enormous chapter, chunkin' chapter, whatever you want to have of your life. And I think that like this is the next chapter, but I think this one, will be different, but in some ways I do feel like it'll be better. And I think that you've inspired me too, because I think a lot of people feel like, it's not okay to pivot. It's not okay to take risks. It's not okay to pivot. It's not okay to prioritize your own mental health. And like, I think that your story really resonates, and I think you're amazing. And I want you to tell me your top 3 things that in the last month you've done for yourself.
I've done for myself? Well,
yeah, like something that made you feel really excited that you couldn't have done before.
I got to spend a week with my sister and her kids and her cats, because we talked about cats earlier and her dog. But I got to go do things, and I got her out of the house, and we went and did things that were just great. And it was fun to take the kids and be around them and be a part of that. Right. I've also I got an Udi, and I don't know if you've seen those.
Oh, are those a sweatshirt?
But it's like a blanket sweatshirt.
Yes, I have. Is it cuddly and cozy?
Yes, but it's made out of the same fur of Ugg boots. And so it's like an Ugg boot for my body.
Oh, you just sold me.
Yes. Oh, my God. And it was amazing.
An Ugg boot for your body. Is that their official slogan?
No, but it should be.
It should be.
They are huge. They're so big. Like, it comes down to my knees, and I can tuck myself into it. And then it's got a pocket where I can put my stuff. Yeah, I won it in another stream. Best thing ever.
Oh, yeah. That's who I know about Udis from. Oh my gosh. Okay, that sounds amazing and so cuddly. And also the best feeling is when the first time you put your foot into the Ugg, when it's super fluffy. And then, like, it gets mashed down after a while. But, like, the idea of having something to wrap yourself in.
It's so good. But I will say, I've made more time to do things with the Coven. And to me, the Coven's always been, like, I don't know how to put it. It's always been that constant. Yeah. And even though it's not always, like, the same people that you're interacting with, it's always been that constant that's been uplifting. everybody in the Coven uplifts everybody. Somebody's having a bad day, people uplift anybody in the chat or in the Discord. And you've grown such an amazing environment here of people that want to be around you. And you know, think I came over here when you were having a bad day because the streamer I was watching was like, "Hey, this streamer said she's having a bad day. Let's go cheer her up." And that's what made me stick with you. Was just being a part of that. And then it's like you go into the Discord and you want to make an announcement that you had a great day and this happened, and everybody cheers you on. Or it's just the little friendships I've made. Or you probably didn't see it, but I put in the memes chat probably one of the greatest memes that explains how I feel about the Coven. And it says, internet friendships are important and valid and real, and also portable. So you can put your friend in your pocket, and you can't look at me and you say you don't want a pocket friend.
Oh.
And I can take you guys anywhere I'm at. If I'm having a rough day and I'm at work, I can peek at the Coven and be like, what's everybody doing? How's everybody going today? And so that's something that I've really prioritized too, is getting to be at more of your streams has just really helped me be able to mentally like center myself, because it's a fun place to be. And it's like, it's fun
okay,
to sing
I
songs
can't take anymore. I'm gonna cry.
and it makes me sing more. And I think that's amazing, because I haven't sung for such a long time. Because I don't love my voice.
Oh my God, are you kidding me? Your voice serenades all of us. It's the most
don't love my
beautiful.
voice.
Are you kidding me? Oh my God. I will not accept this slander of your voice. How dare you?
But the love and admiration from everybody, and getting to hear everybody's creations is just, it's amazing. And you foster that environment that allows people that didn't know if they want to sing or not to do that, and to like put themselves out there and try something new. And it's just like you were telling me that, you know, you didn't think you could do it, but you'll realize you can. You're fostering that in other people. And so to be able to come here and make time for it and now be able to do it has been something huge that I've been able to do. And I'm really sorry that I'm making you cry, because I'm going to cry myself. But it's just been...
The last two podcasts have had a lot of firsts, okay? We learned about Anna Jean breaking her finger on breaking her thumb on a butt. And then this is the first time I think maybe not the first, but like... maybe the first time I've cried during a podcast. So, yay!
And it's not just you; it's the whole community that you've developed here, and the people that have come in for just a moment and then stayed. They're all in that same hive mind. I just think it's great, and it's one of those things that I want to continue to foster.
I will be here every minute that I can be with you guys. And Snash, I'm so proud of you. I appreciate you so much. Everything you just said is making me very emotional.
Sorry.
But no, it's okay. Don't ever be sorry. It's beautiful, and it just makes me feel like... I can try to think
of a song to sing.
Okay, as the last moment of this beautiful podcast, please sing us a song. Any song you want. It doesn't have to be a parody. Just sing us anything you want.
Anything.
Nope.
Well, I just sung this the other day, and I sent it to Mr. Rickman, so that was funny.
Perfect. Let's go. I'm so excited. We got an exclusive drop, guys.
Excuse me. She's not gonna take it. No, she ain't gonna take it. She's not gonna take it anymore.
That's what I like to hear. I'm not going to take it. See, that was the perfect end to this. Snash, you are amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your story and your insights about such an incredible career that you've had. I'm so excited to see where your new career is going to take you. I know it's going to be amazing places, and you are so wonderful. Thank you so much for taking time out to do this podcast with us, and to do on Monday, you participated in Barty Bunch with us again for the 90s theme, and hopefully you'll do it again in November, because it wouldn't be the same without you. And I love you, and I appreciate you, and I'm so grateful for you. And thank you so much, Nash. I appreciate you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for letting me participate in this, because I think it's really amazing what you're doing, and just compiling so much information, and I can't wait to be able to sit down and just listen to them all when I have more time. So I'm excited
They're
to
gonna
be
go
able
on
to
Spotify
just thumb
soon,
through
so
them
it'll be
all.
easier. Yes, they'll be easier. I love you so much. Thank you so much, Nash, and thank you so much for everyone. This was a really special episode. I think it was really illuminating and beautiful and wonderful, and it will be available to listen to on YouTube, Spotify soon. I am Poop Witch X. This was LadySnash. You'll hear her. It's over here. Sorry. You'll hear her voice probably throughout the rest of the stream, and I appreciate you guys. And we'll see you next Wednesday. Thank you so much for joining me. Bye.